Hi guys, welcome to the channel of love. Okay, I thought we'd crack on with Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. You'll see it when you believe it. I've had to go back and have a look at the last video to see where we ended because I can't timestamp it. Could have folded down the page though. Okay, I'll just read you the last, oh, do I have to? Okay, yeah, we're just going to go and try and pronounce these. Okay, so we're on chapter 3, I believe it is, Oneness. We've already done part 1. This is part 2. We ended on this paragraph. The great parable on the subject is Gulliver's Travels, wherein being a Lilliputian or a Brobdingnagian is a matter of perspective. Let's take another look at the entire business of oneness and how it applies to your individual body. Okay. Getting a clear reference to the whole. If I turn my metaphorical microscope inward and look at a single cell within the totality that is me, I will find many cell components with fancy names like nuclei, mitochondria, DNA, RNA, centrioles, basal bodies, and the like. One single cell is a whole, a totality unto itself, and carries within it all that is required to reproduce the entire organism called me. One of your cells carries all of you. Assuming we have 6 billion cells, theoretically, any of those cells have within itself the capability of cloning another whole person. There is also, however, something else that makes up a cell. Something that defies physical explanation and requires going beyond the physical to the metaphysical. Something that holds that entire cell together. That's something we describe as the source, or as serenity, harmony, peace, or ease, or as my personal favourite, love. Oh, that's lovely. Let's just sort the bushy hair out. Okay. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin put it this way: love is the affinity which links and draws together the elements of the world. Love is fact, is the agent of universal synthesis. Love or harmony is the immeasurable, invisible ingredient that synthesizes and creates the form which we call our bodies and our physical world. And our hair. Why would this bit not go away? Gone. Well, just settle down, settle down. It's got a cell of its own. Okay. When a cell does not have internal harmony or ease, even though all of the inner parts are there in the proper proportions, that particular cell will behave. That's just too funny to sync it up with my hair. That particular cell will behave in a non-harmonious world. In a non-harmonious way and affect the entire whole that contains it. Thus, a cell with an absence of ease, a diseased cell, is lacking a reference to the whole, including itself. A diseased cell lacks internal ease or harmony or love, or whatever we choose to call it. That cell has absolutely no reference to the whole, to the individual person. Consequently, it destroys everything in its way by refusing to cooperate with the adjacent cell until it destroys the whole, and as a result, it destroys itself. What I have just described is the working of a cancer within a body. It is an organism with no reference to the whole, which does not cooperate with the other cells and ultimately kills the whole and itself in the process. Because it lacks that reference to the whole, it puts itself on a path towards its own destruction. Now shift your consciousness with me to the telescope and begin to look outward from that cell and imagine the self as one single cell among 6 billion cells in a larger body that we call humanity. The totality that you are is very similar to the workings of a cell. You have many component parts, and something mysterious and invisible that holds you together. The same thing that Teilhard described. Love is your universal synthesizer, if you are the universe. When you, as one cell, are composed of something other than that ease or harmony within, you are diseased, and you will react to the cells adjacent to you in the way that a cancer cell acts towards its neighbours. You will not cooperate. Instead, you will attempt to gobble up or aggressively destroy or I don't know how you say this word. Insidiously judge your neighbouring cells. Thus, a cancer in society is almost identical to a cancer in your body. When an individual acts destructively towards another person, it is because he has no reference to the whole. Without that feeling or belonging to the whole, he will act aggressively towards others in the process, and in the process end up destroying the self as well. We begin to see how a lack of affinity for the total unit or a lack of unthinking in terms of oneness can produce a cancer in a cell and in society as well. Now let's turn the telescope up to a stronger focus. Think of the entire planet which we live on as one cell. I have never read a better description than Lewis Thomas's in The Lives of a Cell. I have been trying to think of the Earth as a kind of organism, but it is no go. I cannot think of it this way. It is too big, too complex, with too many working parts lacking visible connections. The other night, driving through a hilly wooded part of southern New England, I wondered about this. If not like an organism, what is it most like? Then, satisfactorily, for that moment, it came to me. It is most like a single cell. Viewed from the distance of the moon, the astonishing thing about the Earth catching the breath is that it is alive. The photographs show the dry, pounded surface of the moon in the foreground, dead as an old bone. Aloft, floating free beneath the moist, gleaming membrane of bright sky, is the rising Earth, and the only exuberant thing in this part of the cosmos. If you could look long enough, you would see the swirling of the great drifts of white cloud, covering and uncovering the half-hidden masses of land. If you had been looking for a very long geologic time, you could have seen the continents themselves in motion, drifting apart on their crustal plates, held afloat by the fire beneath. It has the organised, self-contained look of a live creature, full of information, marvellously skilled in handling the sun. How about that? The entire planet as a cell. And why not? When you shift your perspective to the enormousness of this entire one song, all of the characteristics of a single cell, just like the cell that you are, and that cell inside the tip of your nose, and the cell within that cell in the tip of your nose and inward and outward to infinity, it is all one. Arid, what of the cancerous or disharmonious cells on our planet? Take a look at what we call the nuclear age. What have we done to our planet? Have we not in fact created weapons that have no reference to the whole, or our one cell called Earth? Isn't it working just like a disease cell, gobbling up everything in its wake and ultimately destroying the whole and itself in the process? Should we ever explode one of those devices in aggressive warfare towards any of our brothers, wouldn't we in fact be destroying not only our neighbouring cells, but ourselves and our planet as well? Without a reference to the whole, a sense of the oneness of it all, we can only act like a diseased cell. And what is a diseased cell? but one that lacks internal harmony, serenity, or as Teilhard called it, love. The way to oneness seems to be through the path of inner harmony. The way to inner harmony is through thought. And what kind of thought? The thoughts of oneness and unity. The thoughts that all of us are connected. Though the bonds may not be visible to the naked eye, they are still there, just as they are within each individual cell in your body. Whenever you fail to see yourself as a part of this entire whole, related to all of us in this being that we call human being, then you lack inner harmony and become diseased. That diseased will manifest itself in aggressive, non-loving and uncooperative behaviour towards your neighbouring cells. Thus, the problems of a lack of oneness in our world can really be traced to the individual cells that compose this body we call humanity. As we work at eliminating cancer in our bodies by teaching a sense of oneness and harmony and positive visualisation, we also can help to eliminate the carcinogens. I don't know what some of these words are, guys. Carcinogens. I don't think it's said like that. In our society, the same way, each of us, as a single cell, has the opportunity to affect the entire being in either a harmonious and loving way or in a disorderly and diseased way. Up until now, the history of the human being has been one of far too many cancerous cells and too few cells filled with harmony and ease. The body is wavering, and each of us must do what he or she can to make the shift towards higher consciousness and harmony reign supreme and make the one song harmonise. This is not a job for others. It is for each of us to be involved and help the entire body heal and stay well. The human body has too long been divided, and it is our ultimate challenge to get a reference to the whole, to see ourselves as one, and stay a single cell within the larger cell that is working harmoniously. It becomes clear then, with this new perspective, that anyone who is acting in a destructive or aggressive way towards anyone else is actually a person who lacks inner harmony. We should examine all of our aggressive, hateful behaviour toward others as a problem, not with our neighbours, but with what we are sending out to those neighbours. Within this context, it is constructive to take a look at how we treat those cells adjacent to us who look a little different from us, or who speak a different language, or worship uniquely. We have created a large cell that is composed of many diseased cells, and we all know that the whole cannot long survive when it is made up of cells which are diseased. This was Einstein's warning to all of us when he reacted to the splitting of the atom by telling us that we were now on an unparalleled course toward ultimate disaster unless we could learn a new way of thinking, an alternative to solving our disputes through aggression and war. So let's have a look at a very brief look. This is like kind of really deep stuff. Not easy to actually for it to be spoken and to flow. Okay. You got to really kind of let it absorb so that you can digest it. Still looking at this one hair here. See, look. It's all good. Don't have issues with the others. It's fine. They love your straightness. Okay. A very brief look at the history of the human being. Oh, it's like I'm just making it even more. Ours is largely a story of division rather than unity. Study any book which chronicles the history of the human being, and we see only one long story about how divided we are as species. The most startling thing about our history is that we have always been at war with one another. We can measure our advancements in the sophistication of the devices we have created over the centuries for the purpose of killing off our brothers. We have evolved from simple weapons of destruction, such as crudely fashioned knives and tomahawks, to guns, which can get the job done from a distance, to automatic machines, which can kill many of our brothers at once. Now we have the 20th century term megadeaths to describe the lethal capacity of our weaponry. We consider the analogy of our own body and the billions of cells which constitute its physical totality. If we project that this one body was able to live for 50,000 years, we would see that the entire period of time was devoted to creating microbes and bacteria within the body for the purpose of destroying the body quicker and more economically. We would see that we had now killed off the pancreas, the liver, the arteries, removed a few limbs, and were ready to have all of the component parts fighting each other in such a way as to complete the destruction of the entire body. And we have now created the ultimate cancer, a means of destruction which, if ever used, will destroy the entire world once and for all. The history of this being is also one of emphasizing our differences and divisions. Look at our history books and see how we, as a total being, have behaved. The East against the West, the dark against the light, the old against the young, the Germans against the French, the civilized against the savage. Endless chronicles of dichotomies of people figuring out ways to conquer one another, to outdo one another, to defeat one another. It is analogous to all of the life forms in your body choosing up sides based upon physical appearances. The liver cells against the whites of your eyes, the larger cells of your skin against the tiny cells within your blood, the liquid cells against those in the heel of your foot, the longer cells in the intestines versus the shorter cells in the eardrums. Division, 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 until at last one group wins and kills off the entire body. You know how absurd it would be for you to try to live with this disharmony going on within you. You know, without even having to think about it, that all of the component parts that constitute you must work in cooperation and with a reference to the whole that is you if you are to survive for 90 or so years. Well, the being that is our human being simply has a longer lifespan because it is so much bigger, a question of perspective. And consequently, you must take a look at how the individual beings within this human being have been behaving, and then ask how it is possible for the being to survive with all of this division. The answer is that we either help to change the behaviour and attitude of the beings that make up the human being, or it will destroy itself. Listen to Paramahansa Yogananda writing in the Divine Romance. Please, let's hear about the Divine Romance. I believe there will always be wars, until perchance we all become so spiritual that by the evolution of our individual natures we will make war unnecessary, no matter what their difference is. If great minds such as Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, Muhammad sat together, they would never use the engines of science to try to destroy each other. Why must people feel it necessary to fight? The power of guns evokes no wisdom, nor has it ever accomplished lasting peace. Our history is replete with references to how we have divided ourselves and brought the entire human race to the brink of destruction as a result of our emphasis on enemies rather than allies in this miracle of life. Some of the greatest minds who have been among us know that oneness is more than idle thoughts of philosophers and metaphysicians, that it is the very essence of our reality. In the oneness that is humanity, we have practiced division to the detriment of the entire whole. Yes, we have had some shining lights who have attempted to help us see the folly of our ways, but essentially, we have not been able to transcend our physical forms and see that our humanity is in our thinking, and that the totality of our thinking has always been that of device, how do I say this word? Divisiveness and separateness. There is much for you as both one single cell in this body called humanity and as a functioning whole composed of a multitude of individual cells, in the application of this principle of oneness to your own personal world. One of the best places for you to begin to put this principle to work is in how you function in relationship to all of the other humans within the one song. You can be either an instrument of cohesion and leadership, or one of the beings that unconsciously brings your unit down. Wow. Okay. Really got to try and speak and get this out a bit better. Okay. It's a long chapter. But then we hit abundance. It's worth going through this oneness to hit the abundance. Okay, it's just this bit of hair that's cracking me up. Where are you? I know what's wrong with it. It's straight. I have some straight bits in my hair. I decided never to grow curly, ever. So. Right. Okay, I've lost my page. No, I was there. How long has this one been on for? 22 minutes. Let's keep going. I'm so tempted to re-record, but okay, I think I'm going to cut it off here, make this part 2, and I'm going to have some of my coffee and come back. Okay, bye for now.